The temple had stood on the dead world of Kethphora for 11,000 years. Its walls were made of black stone that absorbed light rather than reflecting it. The symbols carved into every surface had been studied by 17 different species across 3 galactic empires. None of them had ever understood what the symbols meant. None of them had ever opened the sealed chamber at the temple's heart. High Priestess Velthari of the Sindari Collective stood before the great door for the 100th time in her life. Her 4 eyes moved slowly across the ancient text. Her people had been the guardians of this place for 6,000 years, ever since the First Empire had collapsed and the responsibility had fallen to them. She had taken over from her mother. Her mother had taken over from hers. The chain went back further than memory could reach. The prophecy was simple. It was carved in a language older than any living species. It spoke of a sleeper who would wake when the stars aligned in a pattern that happened once every 11,000 years. It spoke of a species that did not yet exist when the words were carved. It spoke of fire and darkness and a great enemy that would consume everything. And it spoke of the chosen one, the being who would stand against the darkness when all hope was lost. For most of her life, Velthari had believed the prophecy was nothing more than ancient mythology, a story told by a dead civilization to give meaning to their existence. But 3 years ago, everything had changed. The Void Eaters had emerged from the space between galaxies. They were not a species in any normal sense. They were living darkness, creatures that consumed light and matter and life itself. They could not be fought with weapons. They could not be reasoned with. They simply ate, and the more they ate, the stronger they grew. In 3 years, they had consumed 47 star systems. 12 billion sentient beings had died. The combined fleets of every major power in the galaxy had failed to stop even a single Void Eater swarm. The darkness was spreading, and there was nothing anyone could do. Velthari had stopped believing the prophecy was mythology on the day she calculated the stellar alignment. The pattern matched perfectly. After 11,000 years, the stars were returning to the exact positions they had held when the temple was built. And tonight, at the moment of perfect alignment, the prophecy would either come true or be proven false forever. She was not alone in the temple. Ambassadors from every major species had come to witness the moment. The Sindari Collective, with their 4 eyes and gray skin. The Karth Empire, massive beings of living crystal who towered over everyone else. The free minds of Theta, digital consciousnesses housed in mechanical bodies. The Valishi swarm, insectoid creatures who communicated through pheromones and clicks. And representatives from a dozen smaller species, all of them desperate for any hope against the approaching darkness. Admiral Korax of the Kareth Empire stood at the back of the chamber. His crystalline body caught what little light existed in the temple and refracted it into small rainbows that danced across the walls. He did not believe in prophecies. He believed in firepower and strategy and superior numbers. But firepower and strategy had failed against the Void Eaters. Superior numbers meant nothing when your enemy could consume entire fleets in minutes. So he had come to this dead world to watch an ancient door that would probably stay closed forever. The countdown had begun. Velthari watched the symbols on the walls as they began to glow with a soft blue light. This had never happened before. In 6,000 years of guardianship, the symbols had never done anything. They were just carvings, just stone. But now they were alive, pulsing with an energy that she could feel in her bones. The assembled beings fell silent. Even the Valishi swarm stopped their constant clicking. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. And then the door opened. It did not slide or swing or fold. It simply ceased to exist, revealing the chamber beyond. Velthari stepped forward, her hearts beating so fast she thought they might fail. The other ambassadors followed, their ancient rivalries forgotten in the face of this impossible moment. The chamber was small, perhaps 10 meters across, and in the center, on a raised platform of white stone that seemed to glow from within, lay a figure. It was smaller than Velthari had expected. Smaller than a Korath, smaller than a Sindari, smaller even than a Veleshi worker. It lay perfectly still, its eyes closed, its chest rising and falling with slow, steady breaths. It was a human. Velthari felt her blood run cold. Humans, the youngest species in the galaxy. They had achieved faster than light travel only 200 years ago. They were primitive, violent, short-lived creatures who had barely begun to explore their own corner of the galaxy. They were not prophesied saviors. They were barely capable of running their own civilization. "This is a mistake," Admiral Korax said, his voice like grinding stone. "The ancients would not have chosen a human. They are children. Infants playing with technology they do not understand." But even as he spoke, the symbols on the walls pulsed brighter. The energy in the chamber intensified until it was almost painful, and the human's eyes opened. They were not normal eyes. They burned with a golden light that seemed to come from somewhere far away, somewhere beyond the physical universe. The human sat up slowly, looking around the chamber with an expression of calm awareness that seemed impossible for someone who had been asleep for 11,000 years. "You have come," the human said. His voice was soft, but it carried to every corner of the chamber. It seemed to bypass ears and speak directly to minds. "The darkness is here. I felt it in my sleep. I dreamed of stars going out, of worlds being consumed, of life being erased from the universe." Velthari found her voice. "Who are you? How can you be here?" Humans did not exist when this temple was built. The human smiled. It was a strange expression, both ancient and young at the same time. The ancients saw further than time allows. They looked into the future and found my species. They looked deeper and found me. They placed my essence here, waiting for the moment when I would be needed. I have been dreaming for 11,000 years, watching civilizations rise and fall, waiting for this night. Can you stop them?" Admiral Korax demanded. "The Void Eaters. Can you destroy them?" The human stood. He was wearing simple clothes, white like the stone he had been sleeping on. He walked to the edge of the platform and looked at each of the assembled beings in turn. His golden eyes seemed to see through them, into them, understanding everything about them in a single glance. "I can show you how to stop them," he said, "but I cannot do it alone. The prophecy speaks of the chosen one, but it does not mean one being. It means one purpose, one united will. The darkness feeds on division, on fear, on the isolation between species who should be working together. You have spent millennia fighting each other over territory and resources and pride. The Void Eaters are the consequence of that division. They are the universe's response to beings who forgot how to cooperate." The chamber was silent. The truth of his words hung in the air like a physical weight. "I carry the knowledge of the ancients," the human continued. They were not gods, but they understood the fundamental nature of reality in ways that no species since has matched. They learned that consciousness itself is a force, as real as gravity or electromagnetism. When enough minds focus on a single purpose, they can alter the fabric of existence. The Void Eaters exist because they feed on the opposite. They grow stronger from isolation, from despair, from beings who believe they are alone in the universe. Velthari felt something shifting inside her. The human's words were unlocking memories she did not know she had. Ancient knowledge passed down through generations of her family, knowledge that had been waiting for this moment to be understood. "The weapon against the darkness is unity," the human said. "Not armies, not fleets, not technology. Unity. When enough beings stand together with a single purpose, their combined consciousness becomes a light that the Void Eaters cannot consume. They are creatures of isolation. They cannot survive in the presence of true connection." Admiral Korax stepped forward. His crystalline body was trembling, something that had never happened before in his 300 years of life. "How many beings? How many must stand together?" "All of them," the human said simply. "Every sentient being in the galaxy must be connected in purpose, even for a moment. 1 second of true unity. 1 second where every mind in the galaxy focuses on the same thought. That is the weapon the ancients designed. That is what they built this temple to prepare for. The ambassadors looked at each other. The task seemed impossible. Getting two species to agree on anything was difficult enough. Getting every being in the galaxy to focus on the same thought at the same moment was beyond imagination. But the human smiled again, and somehow his smile made the impossible feel achievable. The ancients chose humans for a reason, he said. My species is young and primitive and violent, yes. But we are also dreamers. We tell stories. We create connections between beings who should be enemies. We believe in things that seem impossible, and then we make them real. That is our gift. That is what I bring to this fight. He raised his hands and golden light flowed from his palms. It spread through the chamber, touching each of the ambassadors in turn. Valthari felt it enter her mind, and suddenly she understood. She could see the network that the human was describing. She could see how every mind in the galaxy could be connected, just for a moment, through the power of a shared story. A shared dream. A shared hope. Go back to your people, the human said. Tell them what you have seen here. Tell them that the Chosen One has awakened, and that he asks only one thing from them. One moment of hope. One moment of belief that the darkness can be defeated. One moment of connection to every other being in the universe. I will provide the story. I will provide the dream. All they must do is believe in it with me. The ambassadors began to move, each of them feeling a new purpose burning in their hearts. The rivalry between their species seemed suddenly meaningless. The conflicts of the past were dust compared to the future they were now fighting for. Valthari was the last to leave. She turned at the door and looked back at the human. He was standing in the center of the chamber, surrounded by golden light, his eyes seeing things that no one else could see. Will it work? She asked. The human met her gaze. The ancients were never wrong. They chose humanity because we are the species that refuses to accept defeat. We are the species that looks at impossible odds and decides to fight anyway. We are the species that believes in tomorrow, even when today is filled with darkness. Yes, High Priestess, it will work. Because we will make it work. Together. Valthari nodded and walked out of the temple. Behind her, the Chosen One began to dream a new dream. A dream of unity. A dream of hope. A dream that would spread across the galaxy and light fires in the hearts of beings who had never met each other and never would. A dream that would become a weapon against the darkness itself. The prophecy had finally come true. The stars were aligned, and humanity would lead the universe into the light.